Welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. Our 10th wedding anniversary was looming on the horizon, and I had cooked up the perfect surprise for Elena, my vibrant, seemingly devoted wife. After months of secret planning, the tickets were booked, a 2-week Caribbean cruise, the kind she'd always dreamed about but never hinted at directly. I imagined her eyes lighting up with the thrill of it, the warm embrace, her words whispering gratitude in my ear. The crisp envelope with the cruise details sat concealed in my desk drawer, awaiting the perfect moment for revelation. As the days ticked closer, however, I noticed a subtle shift in Elena's routine. Her job at the marketing firm, usually a predictable 9 to 5, began to demand more of her: late evenings, sudden business dinners, and weekend consultations. "Another client dinner, Tom," she'd say, her voice a mixture of fatigue and feigned enthusiasm. "Big campaign. Don't wait up." Suspicion gnawed at me. This wasn't the woman I married, who preached the importance of balance and family time. The doubt crept in like a vine, slowly at first, then all at once, choking my trust away. I wrestled with my thoughts, rationalizing her behavior, accusing myself of paranoia. But the unease persisted, a relentless whisper. Finally, the doubt became too loud to ignore. I reached out to a private investigator, Jack Sullivan, a name given by a friend for times when the truth needed unearthing without shadows. His reputation was solid, his results quicker than anticipated. "We found something, Tom." Jack's voice was low and even over the phone. "It's not good news. Your wife has been seeing someone from her office. Regular meetings after hours, not on any company logs." The blood pounded in my ears, fury and hurt swirling into a potent venom. The image of the man, the thief of my marital bliss, ignited a dark, brooding anger within me. Jack provided photographs, timestamps, a litany of betrayals captured in grim, colored hues. "I'll ruin him," I hissed to Jack, the words tumbling out like hot coals. "He won't know what hit him." The news spread among our circle, as news often does, despite my wishes. Friends and colleagues whispered, their eyes pitying, their words cautious. The fury built within me became public spectacle. Then, the unimaginable occurred. Just as I was drowning in my own vengeful fantasies, he, the coworker, the usurper of my happiness, was found dead. Right on our doorstep. His lifeless eyes wide open, a silent accusation in their stillness. The wail of police sirens tore through the evening calm, a grim soundtrack to the nightmare unfolding. Blue and red lights danced across my vision as I stood frozen, the body of my nemesis a grotesque gift left at my feet. Panic set in, fast and hard. I knew then, it was all a setup, a diabolical plot to pin a murder on me. But why? Who stood to gain from my downfall? The answer came crashing down as the investigation deepened. Forensics, motives, opportunity, it all led back to Elena. My Elena, whose deceit ran deeper than infidelity. She was the architect of this macabre scenario, aiming to rid herself of 2 obstacles with one sinister strike. Betrayal, I learned, was a beast with many faces. As the evidence stacked against her, my resolve hardened. I'd break free from the woman who sought to destroy me. I'd shatter her world as she did mine. Our divorce was swift, her presence in my life erased like a bad dream at dawn. But the scars remained, deep and throbbing, a constant reminder of the woman I loved, who turned out to be the monster I escaped. The tale was only beginning. As I stood alone, the remnants of my past life boxed up in the attic, I knew revenge was a dish best served cold. And I had just started cooking. In the wake of the divorce, my home felt like a battleground stripped of its soldiers, eerily quiet and too vast for one man alone. The days blurred into a monotonous gray, each morning a reminder of the betrayal that had hollowed out my life. But as the initial shock waned, a resolute determination took its place. Elena had taken much from me, but she would not take my future. Determined to reclaim some semblance of normalcy, I ventured out one crisp Saturday morning to the bustling farmers' market in downtown. The vibrancy of life around me contrasted sharply with the numbness inside. As I meandered past stalls of fresh produce and homemade goods, a familiar voice caught my attention. "Tom." "Hey, Tom." It was Mike, a mutual friend from the days Elena and I hosted backyard barbecues, happier times. He approached with a cautious smile, his eyes searching mine for the storm he likely expected. "Mike," I acknowledged with a nod. "Good to see you, man." We small-talked about trivial matters, weather changes, local sports, until he lowered his voice, glancing around before leaning in. "Listen, I heard about everything. I'm sorry, man. If you need anything." "I need to find out who else knew," I cut in, the words sharp, more accusatory than I intended. Mike stiffened, his discomfort palpable. "Tom, what are you saying?" "I'm saying that it wasn't just Elena in this whole mess. Someone else was involved, someone close. And I intend to find out who." Mike's gaze shifted, unease flickering across his features. "You think one of your friends? Wouldn't you?" I pressed. "Who else would she have confided in? Who else might help her cover this up?" I don't know, Tom. But stirring this up. It's already stirred, Mike. Now I need to settle it." My voice was firm, the resolve in my heart hardening like steel. "If you hear anything, I'll let you know, of course." We parted awkwardly, the air thick with unspoken tensions and suspicions newly sown. My mind raced as I left, the seeds of doubt sprouting uncontrollable tendrils. Back at home, my solitude was interrupted by a knock at the door. I opened it to find Detective Linda Harrow, the lead on the murder investigation. Her presence was a cold gust, chilling the already frosty air inside. "Mr. Chambers," she greeted, her tone professional yet not unkind. "May I come in?" "Detective," I stepped aside, motioning her in. "What brings you here today? Any news?" "As a matter of fact, yes." She entered, her eyes scanning the interior before returning to mine. "We've been reviewing the evidence again, and some things don't quite add up. We have reason to believe that there might be another player in this scenario." "Another player?" I echoed, my pulse quickening. "What do you mean?" "We found fingerprints at the scene, fingerprints that don't belong to you or your ex-wife. We're running them now, but it's clear this case is more complicated than a simple domestic fallout." The revelation hit me like a wave. "Do you have any suspects? Any leads on who it could be?" "We're following up on several, but nothing concrete yet. I just wanted to keep you updated, given your situation." "Thank you, Detective," I said as she prepared to leave. "Please, keep me informed." "I will, Mr. Chambers." As the door closed behind her, the wheels in my mind began to turn faster. An unknown accomplice, fingerprints unaccounted for, pieces of a puzzle I was determined to solve. My quest for revenge was not just about retribution, it was about justice, about uncovering every last secret hidden in the shadows of my shattered life. I sat down at my desk, pulling out the cruise tickets I had never gotten to use. I traced the embossed lettering, a stark reminder of dreams deferred. But as I stared at them, an idea began to form, a plan that could potentially expose everything. The game was far from over. It was just entering its next, critical phase. The crisp air of early morning bit at my cheeks as I paced outside the cafe where I was to meet an old acquaintance, a former colleague of Elena's from the marketing firm, named Rick. He had reached out over a cryptic text, hinting at information crucial to my unraveling the layers of deceit surrounding Elena's actions. The sun barely touched the horizon, casting long shadows on the pavement, mirroring the darkening thoughts swirling in my head. Rick arrived, his steps hurried and his eyes darting around before settling on me. "Tom, thanks for meeting me on such short notice," he said, his voice low as he pulled his coat tighter around him. "What's this about, Rick? What do you know?" I demanded without preamble, my patience thin as the morning chill. He glanced around nervously before speaking. "It's about Elena, and the guy the one who ended up on your doorstep." "What about them?" I pressed, my voice hard. "There was talk, before it all went down. They were planning to leave the country together. Start fresh. But there's more." Rick hesitated, looking as if he was deciding whether to continue. "Go on," I urged, my fists clenching at my sides. "Elena was scared, paranoid even. She thought you were onto them, thought you might do something drastic." I scoffed, shaking my head in disbelief. "So she frames me for murder? To run away with her lover?" "Not just that," Rick continued, lowering his voice further. "There was someone else guiding her, giving her advice. Someone from inside the firm, someone very skilled at, let's just say, manipulating situations." A chill that had nothing to do with the morning air ran down my spine. "Who, Rick? Who was it?" "I don't know his full identity. They called him the architect. I thought it was just office gossip, but after everything that's happened." "Thank you, Rick. This helps, more than you know," I said, my mind racing with this new information. As Rick nodded and quickly left, I stood there for a moment longer, letting the pieces fall into place. The next step was clear. I needed to infiltrate the marketing firm, get access to their files, emails, anything that could lead me to the architect. With a plan forming, I headed to a nearby tech store. Inside, I purchased equipment that would aid in a discreet entry, lock-picking sets, a compact flash drive with encryption-breaking software, and a small, high-definition camera. That night, cloaked in darkness, I approached the marketing firm's office. The lock gave way under the skilled manipulation of my newly acquired tools, and I slipped inside. The empty hallways echoed softly with my footsteps as I made my way to Elena's old workstation. Booting up her computer, I inserted the flash drive, watching as lines of code scrolled across the screen, searching for any correspondence with the architect. Minutes ticked by, each second stretching longer than the last, until a folder marked "Private" appeared, decrypted. I opened it, my heart hammering in my chest. Emails, documents, photos, all weaving a damning narrative of deceit and manipulation. And there, buried in the digital morass, was a string of emails between Elena and an encrypted address, discussing plans, fears, and a final solution to their problem. No names, but references to meetings, places, times, enough to build a timeline. I copied everything, resecured the computer, and left as quietly as I had entered. The sun was just beginning to rise as I exited the building, the morning light feeling like a spotlight on my clandestine activities. As I drove home, a plan began to take shape. I would confront Elena with this evidence, force her hand, make her reveal the identity of the architect. This was more than just a quest for personal vengeance now, it was a fight for justice, to expose the network of betrayal that had sought to ruin my life. The game of cat and mouse was intensifying, and I was not just the prey anymore. I was becoming the predator, ready to strike back. The day of confrontation was overcast, clouds hanging low as if to bear witness to the storm that was about to erupt. I had arranged to meet Elena at the old pier by the lake, a place laden with memories of better times, now a stage set for a bitter finale. As she approached, her figure silhouetted against the gray light, I noted how the years of deceit had left their mark on her. She seemed smaller, the confident stride I remembered now uncertain. "Tom," Elena began, her voice wavering, "I don't know why you asked me to come here." "Elena, cut the act," I interjected sharply. "I know everything, the plans, the lies, your little advisor, the architect. I even know about your attempt to frame me for murder." Her face paled, eyes widening in shock or fear, perhaps both. "Tom, I can explain." "Save it," I snapped. "I've heard enough of your lies to last a lifetime. Now you'll listen to me. I have the evidence. I've seen the emails, the photos, the plans. I know about the other man, and most damningly, I know about your accomplice." Elena's posture deflated, the fight draining out of her as she realized the futility of further deception. "What do you want, Tom?" "I want the architect. His real name, his connection to you, everything. And then, Elena, I want you out of my life for good." She hesitated, looking out over the lake, perhaps searching for an escape that wasn't there. Finally, she spoke. "His name is Mark Davidson, our firm's head of security. He helped me because he hated you, believed you were bad for the firm, for me." "Mark Davidson," I repeated, the name etching itself into my memory. "And now, Elena, it's over." I took out my phone, showing her the screen. "See this? I'm recording. Everything you've just admitted, it's all here. And it's going straight to the police." Her eyes filled with tears, a mixture of despair and resignation. "You're going to destroy me." "You did that to yourself," I said coldly. Leaving her there by the water's edge, I made my way to my car, parked at a distance. Inside, I dialed Detective Harrow. "Detective, it's Tom Chambers." "I have something you'll want to hear," I said, my voice steady, devoid of the turmoil that raged within. An hour later, I met Detective Harrow at the police station, handing over the recording and the evidence I'd gathered. She listened intently, her expression grim. "Mr. Chambers, this will go a long way in clearing your name and bringing the real criminals to justice," she assured me. As I left the station, the burden of the past months felt lighter, though the scars remained deep and jagged. But the story wasn't over just yet. Armed with the new information, I had one last visit to make. I drove to the firm, confronting Mark Davidson in his office, the lair of the architect. He was a tall, imposing man, but his composure cracked as I laid out the evidence before him. "Mark Davidson, you're done. The police are on their way. You and Elena thought you could play God with people's lives, but you were wrong." His fury erupted, lunging at me across the desk, but I was ready. A swift, harsh confrontation ensued, ending with him subdued and my hands finally clean as the police arrived to take him away. Months later, the trials were swift, the sentences heavy. Elena and Mark faced years behind bars, their plots and schemes laid bare for all to see. As for me, I left that town, that life, seeking solace in new beginnings far from the shadows of betrayal. I never saw Elena again. The hatred of betrayal, the destruction it wrought, was too deep to ever contemplate forgiveness. In the end, justice, not vengeance, had carved the path to my new life. And on that path, I walked alone, free from the chains of the past, a man reborn from the ashes of his scorched earth.